It's never too late. It's never too late. There's always a new opportunity and a new future.
Hello and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. Let's get the next journey started.
As many of you know, I recently published a book in April of 2021, and the book was entitled To Every Page a Turning, One Life's Journey. And it was a compilation of 50 years worth of journaling and brought together in a novel type environment to describe a life's journey from the 1950s through the end of the 21st century. Many people thought of that as a biography or an autobiography. I choose to think of it as the channeling and the charting of a generation, my generation. Those of us who were born during in World War II and progressed and made our way through the remainder of the 21st century with all its pitfalls, mountains, and clear obstacles. There were many, many paradigm shifts during that time. So many people responded to my book, and they responded kindly, and they asked questions about, my background, growing up in Brooklyn, the issues that I was involved with, being part of ACOA and overcoming a parental addiction, and changing, growing, becoming a family man and a businessman, and growing a number of new businesses into a very successful life career. And so that was all depicted in the book, and people were asking questions about it. And so I thought it only fair that I respond to those questions, but at the same time, be able to ask them, what about your story? And what became abundantly clear to me was everybody has a story. Everyone has a story of, in some way or another, of change, someone who motivated them, inspired them to become something different than they are. And I've said this many times on the show in the openings. So the purpose and the mission of this podcast is to bring guests onto this show who will help you to see, perhaps in yourself, some insight into how you can change or how you have changed, the result of that change, how your life has improved, and in some cases, reached out and improved someone else's life. One of the things I would like to mention is that while there are people on this show as my guests so far who have come from all walks of life, very successful businessmen, attorneys, ministers, musicians, all walks of life, many, many different kind of people. You will notice one thing that has a common thread through it. In my life, I was impacted greatly by a number of people. Firstly, my grandparents. Both my grandfathers were immigrants from Sicily. My father's father came from Castellamare del Golfo, which is a western portion of Sicily, and his family were primarily farming people of the land. And he was a man who, here in the United States, he worked very hard. He was a longshoreman. And he taught me things about tradition. He taught me many, many things about how important it was to stand tall, be a person of ethics, and never, never disrespect your name, and never put your family in a situation where you have embarrassed them publicly. And so I kept that true to my heart for all my life. He was a strong man. He also was a man who taught me very old ways in many things. He taught me how to make wine. He taught me how to make sausages and cheese and all of the common man type of things that was so prevalent in Sicily during his time. He was a very proud man. He also came from a family that had, in Sicily, a lot of ill repute. They were part of the mafia organization, and he never wanted to be part of that. And so he left Sicily and he came to the United States to keep himself away from that. And he would tell me always, remember, be a proud man, walk tall, never get involved with those people. They're the devil. He called them the devil. And it was a difficult thing to overcome living in Brooklyn at that time because it was all around me. And I never did get into that organization or into that life, but they were part of the life scene all around where I grew up. My other grandparent, my other grandfather, my mother's father, came from an entirely different family. He was born and raised in Catania, Sicily, which is on the east coast of Sicily. He came from a family of academics. His grandfather was a professor in the University of Catania. His father was a professor at the University of Catania. His older brother was a professor at the University of Catania. A second older brother was an attorney and a doctorate of law at the University of Catania. So you can see their family lived on the University of Catania. When it came time for him, the family decided they should give him to the church. And so he became a novitiate in the seminary to become a priest. And he was in his second year in the priesthood before being ordained when he met my grandmother and decided it wasn't the life for him. He wanted to be a family man. And so he left and they married and they came to the United States and had 5 children. But he was highly educated. He spoke 5 languages. He was an entirely different person than my other grandfather. And he taught me different things. He was a businessman here in the United States. He had a number of businesses that he ran, and he was successful. And he always dressed impeccably with a suit and tie. And they used to call him Mr. Joe. Everybody called him Mr. Joe. He was the professor of the neighborhood. And he taught me things like appreciation for opera and literature. And we would discuss philosophy. And he spoke Latin fluently and Greek fluently. And he read all of the old masters. And he would discuss these things with me. And he gave me a love for knowledge and education. And he was probably the first one who recognized that I have an intellect that was pretty good for absorbing these kinds of studies. And so he encouraged me to pursue further and further. And he gave me a great sense of what the world could be, a global look at the world. And then there were other people along the way that I knew who inspired me in many different ways. I've told you about my Uncle Jim, who was my father's had 2 brothers, my Uncle Andrew, who was my godfather, and my Uncle James, who was the middle brother. And he was the first one in the family, the Buccellato family in the United States, to graduate from university. And he became an attorney, special investigator for the state. He was quite a guy. He was a very accomplished man, very educated man, and he and I had a very special relationship. And he saw things in me that he also saw things in me that were beyond what the common street people were. And he encouraged me and prodded me along to become more than if I would have just remained in the environment that I was living. He gave me a zest to reach for more. And I did. I continuously reached for more. So I had a grandfather that taught me tradition and foundation and ethics and constant law, and another grandfather who taught me academically the arts and what was available in literature and the world that's large, the global world, and how there was more to man than just working with his hands. And he taught me that tremendously. And then I had this uncle who taught me that there was opportunity in the United States for those who would work hard for it and aspire for it and reach for it. And he was right. And I went on in my life to go become an entrepreneur and a businessman, as I've said before. I got my first job when I was 12 years old, delivering Western Union telegrams. And I retired when I was 76 years old. So that's quite a span of time. And I had a number of businesses, successful businesses. I founded and co-founded a number of businesses that were taken public and on the New York Stock Exchange. I was a CEO of a publicly traded company and a conglomerate that had 27 undercompanies in 3 different continents. At one point, they had thousands and thousands of employees. And that came from a humble, very humble beginning. But it came because I had a foundation that was given to me to be respectful and to understand that we were all people of God. And in my family, we were, of course, Italians in America. I was raised Catholic, as most Italians in America were. And we were raised to believe that the Bible was an essential part of knowledge. And it was part of our learning, especially from my grandfather, my mother's father. He taught me that there were characters in the Bible that I should look to as champions, as guides for the future. And as my life progressed, I saw many examples of people in the Bible, both the Old and the New Testament, that I could relate to. I certainly, when at a certain point in my life, when things seemed the darkest, when I had a spinal problem and I had to rid myself of all the businesses I was in because I was in such chronic pain, they were feeding me drugs day and night just to cope with it. And I couldn't stand and walk without the use of two canes. Job was a natural figure for me to see and understand at that time. I lost my business. I lost my capacity to function. I ended up in a divorce after 39 years of marriage. My wife decided she couldn't live with an invalid. I lost my capacity to think clearly because of the drugs. I lost my sense of worth. And for a number of years, I was broken. I was a broken man. I had nothing. And slowly, a little at a time, I came with the assistance of other people. I got better, and I got after taking 37 invasive procedures into my spine, was able to function again and walk again, and get rid of all the drugs and get back into a capacity that God had given me. My brain was still there, and I could still function. And slowly, my body came back, and I was able to rebuild again. And after 7 years of being alone, I met a wonderful, wonderful woman who was faith-filled and filled with joy at the same time. And she helped bring me back to life. And that was an amazing transformation from someone who thought his life was over to someone who said at one point, 15 years ago, it's just beginning. And it did just begin. I grew again, new businesses, new opportunities, new success, new accomplishments. And a year and a half ago, my wife said to me at one point, all those journals that you have there in the garage, you have 50 years worth of journaling. It's all very good stuff. It's inspiring stuff. It'll help other people's lives. You should do something with it. And so I created this book that you see here behind me. I can't know which way I'm pointing here. And there it is right there. And the book was called To Every Page is Turning. And it's been well regarded and became a bestseller on Amazon. And I was very gratified to find out that it reached many people's lives. And so the purpose of the podcast is to continue that, to bring people together here on this show who can be examples to other people of how perseverance and willingness and hope and determination and never giving up can result in a new life and a new change. Every one of the people who have been guests on my show so far have had a common example. They've persevered. They've had a vision and a focus. Some of it was biblically inspired. Some of it was not. But they have overcome and they have succeeded because they aspired for a bigger and a better life. And they are humble people in their own right, but willing to speak the word. Speak the word to tell people that there is an opportunity for anyone who takes it. If you sit and you languish in your condition the way it is today, it will never change. If you find ways to change, and the inspiration, for me, they're biblical. They're inspired by characters in the Bible. They're inspired by people that I've met along the way who have given me little tools to hang on to. Small examples. I said I was raised in the church, but I was one of those Christians who really didn't understand what it was about. I thought it was all academic. It was from the word, the scripture, and it was all here. I didn't understand it in my heart. And one day I was sitting in a group of people many years ago who would gather together to share experiences. And this couple came in who were very well known to us, an older couple. And they came in late, and everyone was sitting in a big circle. And they came in late and they sat down, and this lady was sitting there and she was beaming beaming. Her eyes were bright and shiny. Her face was aglow with a glow to her, and she had a big smile on her face. And I said to her, Rita, what's going on with you? And she said, oh, I had a wonderful day. I said, well, tell us about it. What's going on with you? And she looked up with this face and she said, God and I had a good laugh together today. That struck me. God and I had a good laugh together today. She was talking about a relationship with a living God, not a knowledge of education or wisdom from a book, but a relationship with a God that she could laugh with. And I never knew that. I never had that experience. And I wanted it. And I took every effort I could to find it and learn about it from that day on. And when I did finally recognize what it meant to be in a relationship with God rather than just an academic, my life was never the same again. And I venture to say anyone who takes that walk, anyone who takes that pilgrimage will find the same thing. So that was one example in my life, a very great example. My grandmother, my grandparents, of course, gave me wonderful examples in my life. And my wife taught me it's never too late. It's never too late. There's always a new opportunity and a new future. We went through some difficult times in the beginning because we had nothing. We were broke. And we went through difficult times, and we went through budget planning and overcoming the issues, financial issues we had. And we started small new companies. And my wife, who was a thrift store genius, found out that in addition to buying things on the computer on various networks, she could also sell them. And so she became an expert at buying and selling on the internet. And she developed a very great opportunity for us because she gave us the opportunity to go beyond the meager amount of money we were living on at the time. And it was meager. It was a Social Security check. We had a home that was paid for, but that was it. And so we battled our way back. We started a new business and we came back in again. And Wall Street was good to us. And today, we're married almost 15 years and we live in a comfortable environment. We live in a very comfortable home. We give thanks to our God every day. Every single day we meet together for devotions in the morning to give thanks for what he has done for us. And we know that to whom much is given, much is expected. So it's time to give back. And we do give back. We not only tithe, but we give back by these efforts that we're coming through here, putting out these books and creating these podcasts. And you will soon meet her on this podcast because she will be a charming addition to this show. And we will do programs together, she and I, and tell stories, wonderful stories that we have experienced and lived on our own right and that other people have shared with us. And she is a very talented artist and poet. I'm sure you will find it very enjoyable. We have a few people coming up in the very near future that I assure you will be astounded by. The things that they have accomplished, the pits that they have come from and overcome. It's like drowning to Mount Everest. You know, it's an enormous change. And I only pray that God will allow you to see it, understand the message, relate it to yourself, and have a better life. So until then, tell somebody you love them today.
Thank you for tuning into the show. I hope that it resonated with you. It certainly did with me. And I hope it encouraged you to realize the true power of your story. As a reminder, new episodes will be released Wednesday mornings on your favorite podcast apps and also on YouTube as well. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn your notification button on to ensure that you receive updates on new episode releases. I'm grateful for your reviews and your support. The love is certainly felt. Keep it coming. You can reach out to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, or stop by my website to everypageofturning.com. All links are clickable in the show notes for quick access. Do you think that you or someone you know may be our most inspiring guest yet? Let's hope so. Click on our contact page and get in touch on my website and share your story. I look forward to reading each one personally. My best-selling book, To Every Page You're Turning, which was published by Mascot Books, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and many more popular book retailers. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Till next time, remember that every day is a new opportunity to write your new page in your incredible journey. And it is incredible. You're the only one who has it.